Welcome, Raksha. Thank you for being here with us. Nico asked me to give you a special thanks for your enthusiasm and quick acceptance to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here.
So the stage is all yours and good luck.
Okay. So, hello and welcome everyone. My name is Raja Schaar. I am, as we were already told, I am the program director for product design at Drexel University, and I'm also the co-chair for the Industrial Designers Society of America Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Council. And I'm here today to talk to you about one of my programs that I run as part of my research and scholarship at Drexel University. And it's entitled Black Girls Steaming Through Dance. So just a little bit of background. I identify as she, her, or my pronouns, and I am a Black woman in the United States. So this program is near and dear to my heart as a Black woman who is a designer. Because it works to address and examine inequities across STEM and STEAM fields through the culturally sustaining pedagogy of dance. So I wanted to take some time today to sort of go over sort of our program model to really dig into how we are a truly interdisciplinary program that's specially positioned to work within our community near Drexel University. So for background, Drexel University is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the northeastern United States. We are primarily urban area. The population of Philadelphia is a majority African American and Black. We have a very diverse population in the city of Philadelphia, and Drexel University is in a majority Black and brown community in University City near Mantua and Powelton Village. And this is a designated promise zone neighborhood of the United States, which means it is distinguished as high poverty, high need. And so with that, Drexel University has created a neighborhood extension center to run a lot of community-based programs. And our program happens to be one. So I'm going to go through a little bit about our team. So I myself am in product design in the design department at Drexel. I work with an interdisciplinary team of Black women researchers, including Val Eiffel, who is an associate professor of dance, Michelle Rogers, who is associate professor in computing and informatics, Ayanna Howard Handy, who I forgot to put her name on here, who is an assistant professor in the School of Education, as well as our student research assistants, Mo Woodard, who is working on her PhD currently in the School of Education and has her master's in digital media, to John Shea Wainwright, who was an undergraduate student in psychology and is now working on her master's at Temple University, and Kalila Dozier, who is an undergraduate student in product design. And our program is sponsored by the West Philadelphia Promise Neighborhood Grant, which is through the Department of Education. You can find a little bit more about our program online at our website, blackgirlsteaming.com. So a little bit about the why for this. We are really established as a program to address inequities, as I said, of Black women in technology and design fields. And so we really appreciate the time that I've given here on this stage for the Global Design Thinking Summit. I'll talk a little bit about the intersections between what we feel are inherent in design and technology. And I think it goes without saying, it's really important for us to include voices of minoritized groups across the globe, but in the United States, that happens to be Black and brown girls. When we talk about design and innovation, because it's so critical for empowering people to sort of shape their futures and to shape the worlds around them, and also to address those inequities. So, through our program, we are aiming to fill the gaps across the disciplines and really sort of share the value of the space that we've made that is inclusive of Black professors, Black students, and Black graduate students and research assistants We also work with public school teachers and their families in the West Philadelphia community. So it has been documented that Black women and girls are severely underrepresented in STEM fields across educational and career continuums. Their access to STEAM pipeline opportunities could lead them on a path towards future STEAM majors and career trajectories, and they lag significantly behind their white female and white male counterparts. More specifically, the statistics speak to dance, design, and code fields, the areas that are core to the work of our group, Black Girls STEAMing Through Dance. And while the arts in general are crucial to the development of young youth in urban environments, dance really does have specific benefits. So when we look at, while we use dance, it encourages the development of healthy relationships to the student's physical body. It's respect and understanding of others' bodies and awareness of their movement choices in space around them, and provides an outlet for physical expression and wellness. So dance is shown to reap the benefits of 3 key areas for young students, K-12 students here in the States: school culture, teacher satisfaction, and student achievement. And so our review of the literature on the impact of dance in K-12 education reveals that there's been a strong connection between kinesthetic learning, like learning by moving, and non-white children in urban areas. You can see this in TikTok, right? So Black children's overall performance is significantly better in high movement expression than in low movement expression. And so in these learning contexts, when we have a lot of seat-based and passive learning, if we're not addressing the learning needs of the African American and Black students, then we're not really meeting them when they come. So bearing that in mind, Black Girls STEAMing Through Dance was created to address these gaps and underrepresentation of Black girls in STEAM, as well as the lack of in-school access to dance and STEM education. So a little bit about our conceptual framework. We really work across these 3 areas that combine areas of critical dance pedagogy and culturally sustaining pedagogies. So core to what we do is really thinking about this idea of navigating race, place, and space, thinking about critical reflection and self-efficacy and identity, and then understanding the importance of mentorship and practice and how we work with our graduate students, our undergraduate students, and our dance students. So we're in our 4th year of existence, and we operate across several contexts, including an after-school program for 7 to 12-year-old Black girls in the Dornside neighborhood. And then we also run co-curricular mini courses for our 5th and 6th grade students at a nearby middle school, the Science Leadership Academy Middle School. And we also run professional development courses for public school teachers. So our after-school program, and I'm going to show some pictures, hold on. We're really trying to connect the dance principles of sort of time, space, energy, and the body, as I've sort of been bringing up. But at the Dornside Center, we try to engage girls in a dance class that consists of like jazz, modern, ballet, or hip hop dancing. And we use undergraduate teachers to teach this, right? And it integrates the various elements of STEAM that are taught by our professors and our undergraduate research assistants. And each week, the girls sort of rotate between a coding lab, a design making lab, and a dance making lab. And in the coding lab, they learn to code, they learn about integrating augmented reality and virtual reality. In our design and making lab, they really learn about design and circuits, and they try to work through creating wearable technologies that will go into augmenting things around their dance performances. And so our weekly activities really draw inspiration from the dance instruction. So the girls are making with their bodies, but they're also making with their hands. And at the middle school level, we actually are working to like ramp this up, and we're having the girls think through not only the dance making, but also using microcontrollers. So we use Chibitronics, which has a microcontroller board that allows you to control the operation of lights. And so they have a block coding software that I'll get into a little bit. So the girls really engage in like these group choreographies, and then they create these dance sequences, and then they create illuminated costumes that go along with their dance sequences that go into a final performance. And then we have our teacher professional development workshop, which we also do. So when we're thinking about like our how our conceptual framework really works in the social justice context, we really are working around transformative learning, and we want to try to center the students' lived and cultural experiences throughout the process of teaching and learning. And when we think about like what culturally sustaining pedagogies really means, it derives from culturally relevant pedagogies, and it recognizes that students' past, present, and futures exist on a continuum. And here in the United States, it's really based on white supremacy and social marginalization. So when we think about culturally relevant pedagogies, we have to encompass three tenets. One is looking at academic achievement, cultural competence, right, and critical consciousness. So the students are aware of these structures of power. And so with our program, what we're really trying to do is get these young Black girls to imagine futures that they had not really put themselves in before, and get really excited about the collision of these disciplines as integrated and core to their identities, and not these separate fields that they have to like identify in and go through. So it's really about self-efficacy, and we really are focusing on this idea of critical dance pedagogies as like sort of like the linchpin that we're going through. So I'm going to show a little bit more detail about our various programs, but I wanted to talk a little bit about why and how we STEAM through dance, design, and code. So I'll start with dance first because that's sort of core to what we do. So as I mentioned before, our elements of dance are time, space, energy, and the body. And dance is fundamental to Black girls STEAMing through dance, and it really serves as a conduit for developing STEAM literacies and identities because we use a physical body as a vessel for learning and creative expression. So Black and brown bodies, which have been historically marginalized and classified as minorities in the United States, are significantly underrepresented in STEM and STEAM, as I said before. So we have to think about bodies from the standpoint of skin tone, race, shape. And when you have dance, you can really start to celebrate these things because you really are focused on these ideas of the body. So in Black girls STEAMing through dance, dance stands on its own as an art, but it's also being utilized to support and translate both design and the coding aspects. So performance and choreography are emphasized, but the students really focus on not just the technique of dance making, but they allow them to reflect on how they understand coding and design. So when we think about it, dance as a tool to reflect and respond to the learning that's happening, we can share what we've learned through our bodies, which really helps with constructing knowledge. And then we can think about nonverbal reflection, which really helps us engage in those multiple intelligences that Howard Gardner put forward. So when we think about designing choreography too, they're thinking about this idea of being creators. So they're creating a movement or a gesture that summarizes how they feel in response to what they've just seen or what they've just learned. And then in our 9-month dance program in the after school, you know, in a traditional dance program, it's really focused on technique and skill building, but we still try to imbue some of that in our program, but that's not the emphasis, right? So I'm not going to show this video, but I will show one at the end so you all can see a little bit about how we workshop some of this stuff. So in terms of design, you know, we really STEAM through design because design itself is one of those interdisciplinary fields that really brings together a lot of different types of learning, science, technology, engineering, art, mathematics, right? So at the Dornsife Center, you know, the girls are engaging in these different dances and their different programs, but really what we're doing in the Make Lab or the Design Lab is focusing on core things where we're asking the question, how might we celebrate, sense, and show our bodies interacting with space over time, right? And we do this through electronic textiles. So e-textiles or wearable electronics is sort of like the linchpin that holds it together for us because it's about the body, but we also are applying design processes to it. So when we look at sort of like our core things, we're looking at creative processes and e-textiles. And that's largely because In industrial design, which is my field, wearable technology is like emerging, and it's really starting to intersect with fields like healthcare and other performance wear. So we're talking about fitness monitors, light up sneakers, smartwatches, hearing aids, augmented reality headsets, right? So there's a lot of different ways that people can interact with technology, the physical technology and hardware. And we really feel like wearables gives us a unique opportunity to do that. And so by leading girls through e-textile based wearables, we're able to address skills and knowledge related to designing, making with textiles and materials, and thinking about sewable electronics, controls, and sensors. And so we have sort of like the skill building phase, which is really focused on the design process, but then we get into more of the details where we have actually girls thinking about electronic components, hardware and sensors, and we pull it together in a culminating exercise where the girls make something light up, right? So whether they're creating something like a sparkle cuff, or I don't know, I accidentally played the video, so sorry. Where they were creating something like a sparkle cuff or light up glasses or a shirt that they might wear as a part of their performance. They're really brainstorming through how to express what they've learned in their class. And so, we really do want to try to create that connection, not just with the body, but also with coding. And so during the second phase of our class is really where we start to get into how to make and describe via code. So the principles of dance that we try to bring into coding are time, space, because those are the ones where it's easier for us to compare because we can use some of the core principles of design where we're thinking about this idea of sequences, loops, and hold on, sorry, get to the next one, sorry. Sequences and loops, but also conditional statements. And these are ways that we are able to describe, setting up the rules and the conditions for when you do something and when you don't do something. And how do we design that into how we're dancing and interacting with others in a space? And how do we do this also in a virtual space, like in a computer? And how does that translate literally to the physical hardware? So, we're using a lot of different platforms. And one of the ones that we fallen in love with is Chibitronics has a make code one, which really works through block coding. And the girls are able to use these virtual microcontroller boards and translate those to physical ones. And again, I'll show a video at the very end so you all can sort of see how it all pulls together. The other thing that we're thinking about when it comes to design, technology, engineering, art, and math, right, is this idea of where are those intersecting disciplines. So design, e-textiles happens to be one that's really core, but another one is augmented reality, which has applications across the industries. And so when we're thinking about how we can get the girls to add to their sort of library of tools and skills, augmented reality becomes an important way for them to explore because we're thinking again about this idea of space. So it's not just about the timing of things, it's also thinking about the space. And now that we've moved into a more virtual format over the last few months, we've had to really rely on them sort of creating these virtual stages for themselves. And so we use this application called CoSpaces, which is available for a small subscription. There's a number of seats you can have for free, but there's a small subscription that our girls have access to. And so they're able to use like their phones or tablets or things so they can sort of create the stage and also create the choreography there. So really by leading girls through all of these activities, we've really seen some tremendous growth between our students. Some of the things that have come up have been representation, access, identity development, self-efficacy, multidisciplinary learning, mentorship, practice, being vulnerable, navigating this idea of race, place, and space, and again, critical reflection. So we've seen we've had several journal publications and book chapters and presentations, but one of the most valuable parts of the early stages of our program has been the development of that conceptual framework as we think about urban dance pedagogy in the context of West Philadelphia. And so we've really sort of expanded our studies to recognize that the ecosystem also involves parents and students who help participate and are also facilitating learning in our virtual environment. And we're hoping to expand our training into more public schools so we can really sort of scale and grow experiences like this for girls. And then really thinking about what is a making space. And it's really a counter space for these young Black girls who can really develop and grow in an interdisciplinary way, an intergenerational way, thinking about and relying on Black creativity. So I wanted to show a quick video of one of the culminating activities we were able to do with some of our middle school girls. So if we could show the video now. All right, cool. And then I don't know if it's social. Okay, yeah, sorry. I'll click here. So it looks like the video was glitching a little bit. So apologies for that. But anyway, thank you. I'm done. Thanks so much. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to me. I'm Raja Schaar at drexel.edu, and our website is blackgirlsteaming.com. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Your presentation was amazing.
I'm trying to figure out how to get out of this. Hold on. Oh, let me find you guys again. I lost you. All right,
Can
cool.
you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So we have some questions for you that the audience made during your presentation. Everyone is on fire with your program. So yeah, I will start reading the questions in Spanish first, and then I'm gonna translate them for you, okay?
Thank you.
1. ¿Dirías que aprender y trabajar con metodologías de diseño fomenta la diversidad y respeto entre personas? ¿Por qué? Would you say that learning and working with design methodologies foster the diversity and respect between people? Why?
Yeah, I think so. I think at the core of what we're trying to do with design, right, is to generate a deep understanding of people. I don't necessarily think that that always translates into respect, unless that is the intent. I mean, I think that that has to be the intention throughout the process. There's definitely ways that people have taken advantage of different communities by studying them. So, you know, when we think about, I guess, in the stream of design thinking, you know, it's understanding your stakeholders, empathy. You hear these words all the time, but it's usually to try to create solutions that can be bought and sold and make money for someone, not necessarily only to solve real problems and needs within a community. And I think that that is really important to consider, the intent behind why you're trying to do that. And I think if we go about the processes of design and we're really thinking about the needs through collaboration, through understanding, through real compassion, then I think that that could really help foster a deep respect for people, and a deeper understanding about the differences that we have and appreciate the diversity of perspectives that exist.
Well, the second question. ¿Diría que la innovación social y la innovación corporativa cada día están más cerca y son similares? Would you say that the social innovation and corporate innovation are closer and every day? Closer and similar every day?
Yeah, no. No, I don't think so. I think we're trying to use more social innovation strategies for corporate, but I think a lot of the practices have not really shifted very much. I do think that as we sort of grow and new fields emerge, especially around service design and technology, I think we're starting to see more deliberate, inclusive practices that incorporate more social innovation strategies. But a lot of the companies, especially those that sell manufactured goods, are slow to actually make meaningful changes in the process that they do because there's an efficiency in working under older systems. So I would say it should be that way, I don't think that we can say it's that way yet, except for a new and emerging sort of pathways, which is just a critique to say it should be, but it's not. And it's hard to implement and change a lot of those ways. I'm hoping that more people are taking the time to investigate and reflect on their processes really critically so that they can be incorporating more social innovation. We really try in my program and at Drexel and for my product design students is to really incorporate this deep sense of ethics, like ethics, responsibility, social and environmental, needs to do good, ways to prevent harm via design, ways to not inflict trauma, and ways to be respectful. And hopefully, as like these generations of students who are going through these more socially embedded programs, then that will shift into the industry as well. But I think it's a want and a wish. I don't think it's happened yet.
Okay, third question. ¿Qué proyectos está ejecutando en su laboratorio de diseño? ¿Qué otros proyectos? Which other projects are you running in your design lab?
Oh, okay. So I have several other ones that are outside of my classes, but I'll talk about the ones that I focus on in class. So currently, I'm teaching two different courses. One is focused on using bio-inspired design or biomimicry to help create sustainable and diverse communities. So we're really looking at this idea of systems design and that process and trying to address social inequities, looking at our current racial pandemic, looking at health inequities, and looking at matters of social justice overall, and really trying to understand how biology can be a strong influencer of how that works. And in another class I'm teaching is really focused on speculative design and climate futures. And the class is called Design, Disaster, and Impact. And our students are working through world building and speculative design to understand how to think about preparation, mitigation, response, detection, and adaptation to climate change, and really trying to be more future forward. And we're really concentrating on ethical frameworks that we've developed, as well as social innovation frameworks that we've been working with to try to propose and also critique designs that may not even be in a place to exist yet in terms of the technology, right? But we want to really build out these scenarios using what we understand about real world disasters, but also speculating on sort of those extremes and thinking in dystopian and post-apocalyptic contexts, but also utopian contexts as well. So those are the ones that I'm doing currently. I also teach courses again in bio-inspired design and sustainability and focusing on waste and design. And then courses focused on health, and then I teach general classes. And then in my research and scholarship, I have two other projects that I work on. So all of my stuff is sort of themed at sort of like these societal inequities. So one such one is like the representation of Black and brown girls in STEAM. The other one is looking at the disparities caused by environmental pollution and environmental racism. So looking at the effects of climate change on vulnerable communities across the globe. In the United States, again, those are brown and black communities, but if we look below the equator, many of the communities tend to be, or most affected by the impacts of climate change happen to be brown and Black communities worldwide. And so when we look at to see how the disparities of the impacts of climate change are hitting some people worse than others, there are very deep and obvious racial undertones to that, including the intentionality of how people are polluting, who benefits from the production of goods, etc. And so one of the other projects I have is called Invent with Environment. And what I really want to do again is empower people who are in vulnerable positions to take control of their situations. And so I'm working with Latinx youth in the United States in North Philadelphia on an environmental education program. But that Invent with Environment program is really to try to encourage a deep empathy and understanding of how natural systems work through technology. And then another one that I'm focused on is looking at the disparities of maternal health that largely in the United States, again, impact and ignore women of color. And so largely when you see maternal health outcomes in terms of morbidity and mortality rates, it's much higher at a disproportionate rate for Brown and Black women. So I'm working on a wearable device to help empower women who may be more susceptible to this condition called preeclampsia. So as a pre-diagnostic device that they might be able to take and empower them in their voice in terms of their care. So I hope that answered the question.
Wow, you're doing so many meaningful things.
I try. I have more ideas. I don't have time though.
Okay, next question. How do you make these projects economically viable? ¿Cómo se hacen económicamente viables este tipo de programas?
So I would say if the question is economically viable as in outside in the real world, I don't care about that. I'm an academic. My thing is to teach concepts and core things, right? We do have materials and manufacturing classes where we have students work through that process, to think about like the costs of things. But I don't think that's my job. My job is to really teach students understanding of strategies and understanding of where theory should be, so that as they are confronted with the realities of making dollars for people, that they understand that there's another way to use design. On the side of supporting my projects, these projects are grant funded, and so all materials that we have that we give to students provide are free of cost. So those they're completely free. Our program is open. We don't require any sort of like program fee to participate. We have a budget that we have per student that we anticipate, and that is something that we think is really important, because a lot of the gatekeeping around STEM, STEAM, and design experiences is because people can't afford to take a camp or a class. And so we want to make these experiences fit within people's lives. That's why we're doing them in school and just after school. And we're trying to make sure that they are completely cheap, free, no cost. So there's that.
Okay, so the last question. ¿Tienes algún consejo para jóvenes innovadores y diseñadores? Do you have any advice for young innovators and young designers?
Stay open and stay curious. I was talking to my first year students yesterday about, I was sort of sharing them a story with them about my first year in school and how I felt like I needed to conform to this definition of what a designer was, and whether it was like in my dress or the type of products I did or the way I had to speak about it. But I definitely felt like at the time when I was an undergrad that it was really constraining. I don't know if it was obvious from the way I presented, but I don't have a single design industry that I am invested in. I'm invested in the good of humanity and the good of society and the good of the planet. And however we get there, it's via very many means. I think design should be at the table and play a part. And I see myself in exploring as many ways as I can that my skill sets allow. And so I honestly felt like when I was in school, it felt a little bit more prescriptive because there was a there was a model of what a good designer's projects look like and what the subjects of those projects look like. You know, it was a lot of devices. And I was really interested in this idea of like education, technology, and learning via design as opposed to just designing of objects. And that was not something that was really encouraged, but it was really core to how I understood the world. And so I really think it's important for young designers and young students to honor their lived experiences and their passions and their interests, and to really carve out those pathways for how design can intersect with those. I've always been interested in saving the rainforest and saving the environment. Like, it's always been a passion of mine. I've always been very passionate about justice around for different genders and different races. I mean, since a young child, right? Like, these are the inequities that I saw that I just thought weren't fair, and I thought it would be great to do it. But then I chose this thing where you're supposed to go and sketch a pen cap or a cup. You know, it's like, how do those two things reconcile each other? How does my interest in social justice reconcile with my skill set in being able to sit at a computer and click on some nerves and lines to create a shampoo bottle? Like, am I being true to myself? And I think at the end of the day, I realize that design really does, and the way that we think about it at its core, allow us just to create and to solve problems and to make those connections between our lived experience and the rest of the world. And we should bring our whole selves into our process in how we design. And I think everyone should feel free to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. You had a great presentation. Everyone loved it.
Oh, yay!
So we hope to see you next time. Have a great day.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.